What's going on, everyone? You're back with your boy Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to learn how to add and subtract fractions, and this is the first lesson of 2 lessons. This is a little bit harder than you might think. Adding and subtraction we're really good at, but with fractions it gets a little bit harder, a little bit more nuanced, so you should stick around for the rest of the lesson so you're right on top of this topic. The only rule that we have to remember for adding and subtracting fractions is that the bottoms must be the same. You must have the same denominator. And we're going to see why in an example straight away. So in this visualization we've got 2 pizzas. One of them's been cut into 2 slices and one of them's been cut into 4. And you're going to eat half of each pizza. That means 1 out of the 2 slices, and you're going to eat 2 out of the 4 slices. If you were to add this intuitively, or just what you think would happen, we might add the top and add the bottom. 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, 2 plus 4 is equal to 6, but then I've eaten 3 out of 6, which is half. But I've definitely eaten a whole pizza. I can see that I've eaten half of one, half of another. That's one whole. So it doesn't make sense just to add the tops and add the bottoms. Instead, what I'm going to do is make the pizza sizes the exact same. So the one where I've got 2 pieces, I'm going to cut that in half as well. Now I've eaten 2 out of 4 from one side and 2 out of 4 from the other side, or 2/4 and 2/4. When I add these together, I've eaten 4/4, or one whole pizza. What you might see here is that the tops are added together, both numerators are plus together, but the denominator stays the same. Once they're both 4, I can't change the bottom because I definitely haven't eaten a half or 4 out of 8. I've eaten one whole. 4 out of 4. This is the big pro tips. Once your denominators are the same, once the bottom is the same, all you have to do, whether you're adding or subtracting, is focus on the top numbers. The answer is going to be the same bottom number, and you have to add the tops or subtract the tops, depending on what the question's asking. So we're just going to go through an example together with the steps right next to it. The very first step for all of these addition and subtraction questions is you must make the denominator the same. The way that we're going to do this is by using an equivalent fraction. What this means is if I multiply the whole fraction by something, it's going to say the exact same information, but the denominator will be the same as the other fraction. So for this one, I've got 2/5 and 3/15. So if I multiply the whole first fraction by 3, the top and the bottom, I'm going to get 6/15 plus 3/15. Well, this is great. My denominators are the same, and I've kept that first one equivalent. I always use those columns because sometimes students forget to multiply the top number and they would write 2/15, and those columns just help me visualize, oh, it's the whole fraction I've got to multiply. Now I've got 6/15 and 3/15. All I've got to do is plus the tops and keep the bottom the same. This becomes 9/15, and we're done. Unless we have to simplify, which we do for this question. 9 and 15 have a common factor of 3, so I'm going to take 3 out of both, which leaves me with 3/5. So this is a couple of extra steps. We've got to change the fractions at the very start using equivalent fractions to get those denominators the same. Once we've done that, it is just plussing the numbers on the top together, but we always do need to remember to simplify if we can. In that example, we were really lucky. We could just times the first fraction by 3 to get the denominators of 15. Sometimes we can't do an easy one like this. We might have harder numbers. So what we're going to do is something called cross multiplication. I'm going to take the denominator of the other fraction and multiply the whole column of the other fraction. What that's going to do is mean that I'm multiplying the bottoms by the other bottom, which is obviously going to give us the same denominator every single time. That is a little bit wordy, but we're going to see it in action. It does make sense once we put pen to paper. So here I've got 3/7 minus 1/4. I can't just change the denominator easily. I've got to multiply it each by the other denominator, remembering to do the whole fraction. So for this first one, 3/7, I'm going to multiply the whole column by 4. And then for my 1/4, I'm going to multiply the whole thing by 7. This means at the bottom I've got 4 times 7, and on the other side I've got 7 times 4. So both of these fractions are now going to be over 28, which is exactly what we want. Again, use the columns if you need to because it is easy to forget to do the tops, but this trick is really, really simple. It will help you get these answers correct every single time. So now I've got 12/28 minus 7/28, and that's equal to 5/28. All I really did was minus the 2 top numbers, which is 12 minus 7, that's equal to 5. And I kept the bottom the same. This is actually a really good example to show why the denominator staying the same is important, because if I did 28 minus 28, I'd be left with a 0 at the bottom, and I can't have a fraction that's got a 0 on the bottom. So it's just a good reminder, hey, once those denominators are the same, you just keep it the same for the answer, big tick. When we do this, you will always have to check for simplification. Next lesson, we're actually going to learn a trick that will mean you never have to simplify these kind of questions. But if you are just multiplying by the other denominator, you will have to check for simplification at the end of each question. It's always worth 1 mark, so it's definitely worth doing. If you can use your calculator, definitely do that. But if not, once you've got that final answer, just check for simplifications or common factors, and you will pick up an extra mark for every single question. So the big takeaways for this lesson is that you can only add or subtract fractions if the denominators are exactly the same. With multiplication, it was just times the top times the bottom, but for these one, it is a little bit harder. The denominators have to be the same. And in order to do that, we can multiply both fractions to make equivalent fractions, but we need to remember to multiply the whole fraction. That's why I use the columns every single time, and I would love to see that in your working out. Once you have those denominators the same, all you've got to do is add the tops or subtract the tops based on the question. Remember that the denominator will just be the same in your final answer. You do always need to remember to simplify, but the hard part is just adding the tops together. If you do want to reduce your simplification, stick around for the next lesson, and I'll show you a trick that means you never have to do it. Thanks so much for watching this lesson, and I'll see you later.